1 in 5 suffer.
Erase the stigma.
Brain difference is not a crime.
Mental health isn't just your problem.
It's our problem.
And now, Mental Health Monday with Marla and Dave.
Welcome to Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave.
You know what? You really like that, hit that hard S, don't you?
Well, someone has to put an S on it, period. So sometimes when the S is missing, I actually go a little extra for that S.
Excuse me.
Mondays.
My name is Marla, and his name is Dave, and this is Mental Health Mondays.
Absolutely.
I can do it harder.
And as usual, we want to let you know right up front, the show is brought to you by NAMI San Fernando Valley and Loving Beyond Reason. And we want you to stop by our GoFundMe page to help keep us bringing this good information to you. That's the Mental Health Mondays GoFundMe page. The link is going to be right there on the screen or right there below wherever you're watching. We have a great show for you today.
Yes, we do, as always. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay. Born the eldest of 6 sisters, Natalie Cadet began her musical journey singing in church at the age of 4. Now armed with a bachelor's degree from Oakwood University and a master's degree from the New England Conservatory, darling. She has taken the music world by storm with her debut project, My Journey, and much more. Natalie is also a mental health advocate, speaking openly about her issues with depression with songs like Dear Depression. When we come back, our conversation with Natalie Cadet is going to be amazing. Stay tuned.
Don't you move.
Help someone who is struggling by supporting the National Alliance on Mental Illness and be a part of the NAMI effect. Hope starts with you.
All right, I was just busted.
Welcome back.
Natalie, welcome to the show, first of all.
Thank you.
I was just asking you, and before we actually went on air, how do you pronounce your name? Because I've been saying Cadet for years, and then literally I saw your bio, and as a friend of ours, I never even decided to read that until now. And then it says it's spelled Kŭh-dāy, and then you dropped some new information on us.
So but let's do this, because I am a person who does not like the middleman. Why do we need a middleman to interpret your name when you are you? Please share with us, how should we and the world refer to you? Go.
Litza, Litza.
Okay, I like.
Yeah, so it's basically a derivative of the name Litz, Litz, and it's kind of a long story, but short is me, and a couple of people in my family were named after the composer Franz Liszt.
Oh.
And so, and there's a history with that, but turns out there's a lot of similarities between him and I, and also, I guess, me more moving forward, I feel like it's time to reinvent myself, and it feels like the universe is saying the same thing. So I'm embracing it.
Well, you
okay.
know,
well, embrace away.
Yeah.
We embrace you. That's the main thing. Thank you for being a guest today.
And that's
Thank you.
I think that the other thing I just have to quickly point out, I kind of love this opening conversation, because everybody, whether you agree with the origin or not, every name has a meaning. So it's very rare that you ask somebody, what does your name mean? And so the fact that she has that information, I find it fascinating, darling.
Well, Natalie, you can speak to us a little bit about that as the discussion develops. But I want to really know.
It's Litza.
Thank you, Litza. Oh, that's right. That's right. Instead of saying
just
Natalie. Wait. So now, do we say Natalie or do we say Litza? Period.
Litza.
Well, it'll be easy. Whatever is, my name is still Natalie, but I'm saying as my stage name and everything else goes, it's Litza.
All right, so, Litza it is.
Litza it is.
So Litza, tell us about when I read starting performing at age 4. What is that actually like? Do you actually remember what that felt like to actually walk on stage? Were you nervous? Or was that just what you guys did?
No, wasn't what we did. It's it was such a long time ago. I really do not. I remember one time when we were singing and we were in church and I was so nervous. I didn't sing at all. And I ended up turning around and saying, "Oh, and walked off the stage with no, like nothing happened or whatever." But and I guess I was still in the shock of it all, but or crying after one time I sang some little song. But yeah, those things are so long ago. I don't remember. I guess I've been dealing with everything that's now. So yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. So when Dave says, when you said, you say we were singing. So we mentioned in the opening that you have siblings, sisters, correct?
And you're the oldest of your siblings.
Yes. There are 6 of us.
Right. So did you?
Yes.
So when there's us, were you like a group? Is it? My brain goes right to similar to like a Clark Sisters or a. Is it? When you say you sang together, was it all? Are you all musically talented? In the same.
Yes. All of my we formed a group called the Kŭh-dāy Sisters, and we basically traveled singing religious music, mostly a cappella, and arranged by and taught by me.
Nice. Well, yeah, you're an amazing arranger.
So how did that talent develop in your home? Tell us about your home life growing up, because like I said, if you started performing at age 4, you're the eldest of your sisters. I can't imagine how young the youngest was.
Can we call a 4-year-old though? I guess maybe you can. I was going to say consciously performing. Or are you just?
Well, again, no need. We have Litza right here.
No, I was asking. I was just asking you as well. I mean,
you're a performer too. Yeah,
that's true. But I mean, I can't say that I was performing at the age of 4. I mean, that is incredible. So, how old was your youngest sibling when they first got on stage?
Wow. I don't remember. I know not all of us were born yet. It was
exactly.
Wow. It was 2 of us when we first started, and then each one got. And
as you got old enough, you joined the group.
It was, and the thing is, it wasn't even planned because that was the last thing my mom wanted. So
I can imagine.
So the whole singing thing, it was just by miracle that all of us happened to be born, and we were born with a voice. So it was.
Wow. So tell us about growing up in the home. What type of home life did you have, and how did that impact your emotional perspective and your mental health perspective and your maturity as you grew up, and sort of the religious background and how that played into kind of the things that you started to understand about yourself?
I guess, first, I guess I would like to say that that's one thing that I guess for the past 6 years or before the past year and a half, there was just a lot about my past that that just kept haunting me. And now I guess I would say for the first time in my life, that is something I can say and I'm happy about, that, is behind me, because my childhood and the childhood that my sisters and we grew up in was not one that we were allowed to talk about, one that was okay in any kind of way. The religious nature, the near cultish kind of behavior, the abuse, all of those things affected us, our home life, on stage, and everybody who saw us, whether on TV or listening to us on radio stations or saw us in public, they were like, "Oh, these are all nice little girls doing whatever," and they had no idea.
Well, you know what? I'm glad that you brought this up. We're gonna go to a break, but when we come back, we want to continue. Because I appreciate you opening this door, because what you're really talking about is PTSD. It's post-traumatic stress syndrome, on some level, or maybe not. But the trauma that goes into how our mental health is affected is what I'd like to continue this conversation when we get back. We'll be right back. Don't anyone move.
When Dave and Marla get together, it's hot.
You may not realize it, but these words, often used to describe someone with a mental health condition, can be very harmful. In a country where 1 in 5 people are affected by a mental health condition, it's time for all of us to step up and change the conversation. Just because someone's struggle isn't obvious on the outside doesn't mean they aren't hurting on the inside. We need to see the person, not the condition. Join with me, pledge to be stigma-free.
It's time for the Mental Health Minute with Marla and Dave.
Also called affective disorders, mood disorders may involve feeling sad all the time, losing interest in important parts of life, fluctuating between extreme happiness and extreme sadness.
Other symptoms may be irritability, changes in appetite or weight, changes in sleep patterns. I have a little bit of that. And difficulty concentrating.
The most common mood disorders are depression, bipolar disorder, seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, SAD, interesting acronym, or self-harm. An estimated 21.4% of U.S. adults experience any mood disorder at some time in their lives.
If you or anyone that you know are experiencing any of these symptoms, distorted moods or emotional states, please, we ask you again, please seek professional help. Your life can get better.
Brought to you by NAMI San Fernando Valley and Loving Beyond Reason.
David is a thinker.
I never do anything without thinking about it first.
Marla is a feeler.
I basically wear my personality on my sleeve.
But when Marla and Dave get together, it's like a match dancing with a firecracker.
Okay, as we promised, we're back. And so we're going to just continue that conversation. And I just want to remind our audience that what you were letting us know is there were so many things that transpired in your past that you're just now at this point in your life and career getting to the point where you can address it, put it behind you, and I guess put it in perspective. But I'd like to kind of hear from you, because what I heard you expressing sounded like trauma.
Yes, you're right. Very much so. There was a lot of trauma on all kinds of angles, and they affected all of us. And one of the things we found was that helped us a whole lot was music, all of us, in all kinds of ways. And even today, when I talk to my sisters, I get to hear more from them about how music helped them during that time. And it's weird hearing it from, I guess, somebody who arranged for them and who, not just their sister, but, it's just like, wow, you think from this angle, you're like, I thought I was getting on your nerves, dealing,
Right.
teaching all the voices, all this other stuff. And they were like, no, this really helped. And it's still a source of strength for us, even now. And so music was that for us growing up. But even then, I guess and especially for me, since I liked to, all the mechanics of music, since I was not allowed to listen to any number or a variety of music except for like a limited amount of gospel music approved by, our parents, that's what would give, I guess, I bought the Kool-Aid. I tried to do, exactly I was told, and that it kept me from growing creatively in that, I guess there were so many limits. We couldn't really grow that much. And still, what was surprising is we all grew. And I did immensely, even though I didn't know what the hell I was doing half the time. I mean, well, most of the time.
Right.
So it's what got me to where I was, and why everybody, I guess, when I finally did kind of step into the real world and was like, oh my goodness, what happened? And everybody kind of looked back and was like, oh, okay, who you listen to? I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't.
I was going to ask you a creative question, just that very thing, because even from the inception of your musical awareness, it sounds like your gift was arranging. Am I right? Is that right from the jump? So how hard was it for you to, in one small genre, if this is what you're doing to arrange, without the information and the source of so many different musical influences, how was that for you? Do you find that it was limiting, or did you find that it gave you a strong base on where to go?
Now I don't care. I guess I don't care how I spin it. I still would have loved to have those references. I don't care. I would have loved. I think there would have been a part of my journey that would have been. I always feel like, or wonder what it would be like if I had those, and how further along in my journey I would have been had I had it. But at the same time, there's nothing I could do to change that. That's just my life.
Was it hard? Was it hard gospel, or was it contemporary Christian? I mean, give us an example of what it was that you could listen to. Give me one artist that you were on your allowed list.
There is no one artist, actually, because there was I still remember when I was near 18 or whatever it is, we heard of a CC Winan song, and we liked that one, but then we kept listening, and then we found out the rest of the album wasn't according to whatever. We're like, no, we can't. So it was just one of those things where the one from here, the one from there, and there.
Right, certain approved music.
Yeah.
I would say that we actually we know what you're talking about. We grew up in a similar, doesn't sound like quite as strict, but background. What I would say is, did at any time when you were growing up, it doesn't sound like there was a lot of communication between your siblings about the things that you guys were dealing with individually. Number one, did you ever get a formalized diagnosis for mental health? And I just want to say right up front for everybody to remind everybody that we're focusing on Litza's mental health advocacy on this first half of the conversation, and we will actually flip into more of the shining highlight on her and highlighting her incredible musical talent. But I would say at any point growing up, number one, did anybody get a formalized diagnosis? And number two, are all of you as advanced in your perspective and learning how to put all this, and not just behind them, but to recognize what you dealt with, understand and keep in perspective? Are all your siblings at the same place? We're going to put a pin in this, and we're going to ask you to answer that when we come right back. All right, it's time for the poll question, as that super fun music would imply. Marla, why don't you give us the question from last week?
That would be great, Dave. The question from last week.
As a matter of fact,
have the question. Last week we asked the question: what is the average delay between the onset of mental illness symptoms and treatment? Your answers, the possibilities were A, 1.5 years, B, 5 years, or C, 11 years.
And part of the reason for that confusion was the fact that literally when we do these two-part conversations, sometimes there's another show that comes in between. So when we say last week, sometimes it can be confusing. But again, the question was, what is the average delay between onset of mental illness symptoms and treatment? 1.5 years, 5 years, or 11 years? Litza, what do you think?
Whoosh. I don't know.
Well, unfortunately, while you are thinking, it is a whopping 11 years is the average delay between first dealing with symptoms and getting to treatment. The question for this week is, what percentage of the adult population in the U.S. suffer from mental illness. Your options are A, 11%, B, 18%, or C, 23%. You can always find these questions. It's fun. They're informative, but anywhere our social media is and anywhere you hear Mental Health Mondays, you can also find the poll question.
And you know what happens when you vote? Your voice gets heard. So don't forget to vote.
All right, so Nat, I was at Litza, excuse me. I was asking you, did you ever get a formal diagnosis for some of these issues that you've been dealing with over the last few years?
Yes. Yes. Actually, seven, or probably going on 8 years ago, I received a formal. Well, I was diagnosed or was at a mental institution, and that was chronic depression. But before then, they had diagnosed me with depression and anxiety. So yeah, and I didn't believe it at first either, and I didn't know what that was. And it was one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, well, it's kind of all in my head, and I was in denial about it for a while. So yeah.
What about any of your siblings?
That I know of, no, but they have struggled with the same. In fact, both
kind of issues.
My mom and my sisters, we've all in recent times we've discussed it, and that's something that we've all admitted that we've struggled with. So yeah.
So when go ahead, no, finish your thought.
So I was going to ask you, in what ways did you first embrace it and then figure out how to deal with it so that you can move forward, put it in perspective, and then put it behind you?
The time that I ended up in the institution was when I was just kind of hit with it. So I was just like, okay, now I can't run away from it anymore. So now I have to like deal with this because I don't want to be here. So, so it was one of those things. But after I left was when I really needed to actually pay attention to it and figure out what that meant for me on an everyday basis. And like literally a month after that, I graduated from grad school. And I think from then on, when I decided to change my perspective when it comes to music, my relationship with music and my journey, that's actually what changed the direction of my fight with depression. So that's really what happened. And when I decided, hey, I'm going to no longer I'm going to embrace the fact that I have this and I need to deal with this. And at the same time, I have music, and it will now be my journey, the way I connect with or discover myself, connect with God and the people around me. Yeah. And from there, that's what happened. So I've had the past 7 years, I've gotten a chance to deal with a lot of those things, but then now I can say that in my music, it's changing to where there's a darkness that was there before that is turning into this new person that I'm discovering I can be. And that is so exciting. I can't wait to share that with the world.
I love that. Speaking of my journey, then comes your debut project. This kind of naturally rolling right into it, in which you discuss some of these issues that you've been dealing with, how you've dealt with it. What was the impetus behind sort of my journey, and what gave you the courage to actually speak openly about what you've been dealing with?
For the reasons I mentioned before, in that the circumstances around those things, around the institution, the life events, I was just tired, just exhausted with everything, with religion, with the pressure of all kinds of stuff, with the pressure that of being a perfectionist and trying to bring out the best in myself and always failing according to me and all this other stuff. There was just a lot. So
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I have a couple of questions that are important that in your share. I think that the one thing that we don't get into often is being able to relate our experiences for the purpose of making sure that all of us who are in and out and suffer with various mental health challenges understand tell me what is a low for Litza? What does that look like for you because you said you ended up getting into a mental health facility?
Yeah. So a short description of that would be, at any given time, it isn't any one thing that triggers me. It's usually accumulation of things over time. So, for example, if there are a lot of things that I didn't deal with or kept pushing, or just any number of circumstances, if they keep piling up, and then whatever that one thing that one day happens,
and is that you being is it confusion, is it
just overwhelmed? Yeah,
overwhelmed. I'll be overwhelmed with it all. I get tired, I'm exhausted, and I don't care anymore. I lose interest in everything, and usually to the point of very self-destructive habits that I've developed.
Got it. Okay.
And so to mitigate that, has the music been, it seems like that's what you're alluding to, has been a big part of sort of the natural way of dealing with some of these stresses and pressures that you deal with in your life. You just kind of get them out, and it's somewhat of a cathartic experience. Is there anything else that you do that helps you deal with making sure that life doesn't start to build up and become overwhelming for you?
Yes. There's a lot of things, and things I had to learn, actually, because I didn't grow up with these things. Comedy has been a huge thing.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So,
just laughter.
Yes, I love to laugh now. So I'm always finding reasons, ways to laugh about anything. So, and
love it.
Consequently enough, watching comedy shows, watching anything of those natures just makes me come alive. The art of it is very important to me too. It feels like just the way they put it. I'm like,
right,
wow,
you start to study it.
Might I suggest maybe Bridesmaid on repeat?
I've watched that. I've also went back and watched like the old Def Jams.
Stand up. Yeah.
Well, let's put a pin in the conversation right here because we have to go to a quick break, but that sounds amazing. We're having fun. Natalie Cadet, now known as Litza. We'll be right back.
Bad.
What are you doing?
Worthless.
Don't trust them. They'll hurt you. You're worthless.
It's pointless.
When the pain of schizophrenia meets hope, everything can change. Help someone who is struggling by supporting the National Alliance on Mental Illness and be a part of the NAMI effect. Hope starts with you.
It's raw, real, and unfiltered.
All right, now we've come back, and unfortunately for this particular part of the conversation, we have come to the end of this part. Natalie, we thank you so much for being a guest today.
You're going to stick around.
You're going to stick around. We're going to continue our conversation. You're here at week after next, because next week we have Scott Killaby. Oh, man, it's going to be an amazing discussion, and we'll continue our conversation with Natalie Cadet, or
Litza,
now known as Litza, on the following week. We'll see you next week. Marla, you got something else to say?
Yeah, I can't wait to get into episode 2, because I see she's sitting in front of a keyboard. What? Special treat. We'll be right back.
Yes, we will focus on her music on the rest of the conversation. See you soon.
Bye.
But for now,